guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, which you might be because it's my second video, my name is Catherine and I'm a first year year 3 teacher. So I've just graduated my training and I'm starting as an NQT in September. Actually next week I'm starting, which is a bit scary. But yeah, so on my channel so far I've only got one video where I'm showing you how I use PowerPoint to make some products. And I wasn't really sure what to record for my next video because I wanted to do a classroom tour, but my school was closed until this week, which by the time you see this, it's been closed for 3 weeks now. So I did a little poll on my Instagram that I will link in the description below, asking what I should do a video on, and the majority vote was to share my training journey. So that's what I'm going to do my video all about today, my training journey. So I thought I'd start at the very beginning and tell you guys how I was inspired to teach in the first place and everything like that. So I decided I wanted to teach when my brother was really little. My mum was helping him with his homework and he wasn't really getting it, and the way that she was teaching him wasn't really helping him either. It was kind of like a, do it sort of approach. So I sat down with him and I showed him how to do it. I think it was fractions. I did a practical thing, probably with pizza, because we do with fractions, and he just got it. So that was my first light bulb moment for him. And then from then on I went to do some work experience in schools. I think at that point I was in year 10, so I did work experience in a primary school, and some volunteering in schools as well. So I'm just going to cover up the logo, but that is a little year 10 me doing my first work experience. And that for me was an experience that really showed me that I wanted to teach. So from then on I went to sort of dedicate my life and my education to teaching. So I chose subjects that I thought would help me with teaching. For GCSEs there wasn't really any education stuff for GCSE, so I did media, music, math, science, English, Italian. Who wants it? Yes, I did those. It was kind of just random things because you couldn't do much for education at that point. But I decided that once I got to A-levels, I would choose A-levels that would sort of go towards me being a teacher. So for my A-levels I chose maths and psychology and other stuff. I also did the extended project, which I don't know if you guys have that still, if it's long gone. But basically you could do whatever project you wanted, you chose it, you planned it, you carried it out, and that was worth half an A level, so an AS level. So I did that on investigating the relationship between teaching styles and children's emotional growth, academic and behaviour. Because one school in my area was really traditional, Mr. and Mrs, that sort of thing, whereas another school was more progressive and you could call teachers by their first names. So I wanted to know if that deeper relationship had an impact on the children. So that's what I did for A-levels. I actually did A-level maths because my maths teacher recommended me for it. He said that I'd be really good doing A-level maths, and he was so wrong. I failed miserably. I got a U. I didn't know you can get a U in A-levels, but I got a U, which is ungraded. It was so bad they couldn't even grade it. I think I got 1 or something like that. But yeah, I decided that wasn't for me, so I actually ended up resitting my A-levels. So I was a year behind everyone else, which was a bit of a big thing for me because at that point I think I was probably 18. Yeah, I was 18 and all the other children were 16, 17, so I was a bit surrounded by children. But yes, so the second time around I decided to choose A-levels that I wanted because I kind of just went for whatever the first time around, which is how I ended up doing maths. So I made more a point to choose A-levels that were actually going to help me with my education and being a teacher. So I chose psychology again, I chose sociology. I had already had the extended project under my belt, so I didn't need an extra one. I chose film studies just because I kind of liked film studies from media studies, and I randomly chose Japanese because you might know from my Instagram handle and my YouTube name, Oshiru Sensei, I really love Japanese culture, I love the language, I love everything about it. So even that at that time I loved Japan, so I chose Japanese as one of my A-levels. So I did those to get to towards being a teacher. Now those two subjects were really great, psychology and sociology, but my grades were not fantastic. Now sociology, I loved it because you got to learn about sociology of crime and education and health, and it was really interesting, and our teacher was amazing. He was the kind of teacher that was like cool without being cool. Like, he just swore in lessons, like to make a point or something, but he would still just swear. And you know, as a teenager, it's really cool when a teacher swears. Not in primary school, guys, secondary school. But so yeah, we all loved him, he was great. But psychology was a bit, yeah. After like a couple of weeks in psychology, my teacher fell ill, I think. She just kind of disappeared, we don't really know where she went. I think she was ill, and the teacher that took over for her was a trainee teacher, and I'm guessing she was doing a skit now that I've done one, but she was a trainee, and she was terrible. It was really bad, because at that point she was learning the studies before she came into us the studies, which, you know, wasn't really great. But so I didn't have a great time in that lessons. I was disengaged really easily, and when I'm disengaged and bored, I start to doodle, so I was doodling all the time. And to be fair, doodling helped me to learn. Like, if you made a good point, which is rare, I would doodle it to remember it. She didn't like me doodling in my book, and I got called in like several times because I'm drawing in my book and destroying school property, and we didn't get on. So my grades for my A-levels weren't great. So if you think that you need to be a teacher, you have to get A stars and A's and B's, you don't. Because my grades, in the end, I think I got 2 D's, an E and an A, and the A was Japanese. So clearly I did not do great. Actually no, I got a B in film studies. I think I got a D in sociology, E in psychology, B in film studies, A for Japanese, then an A for my summer project. So overall I did not do great. Now, at that point that I got my grades, I wasn't even home. I was at camp. So I was away for the summer at camp when I got a call from my mum about my grades, because I think she opened them for me, if I remember correctly. And then at that point I was sort of surrounded by everyone who's got all their dream grades and going to their dream universities, when I hadn't got into any of my choices because my grades were so low. So it was a bit so yeah, I ended up getting into university through clearing. So if you don't know what clearing is, it's basically any universities with a gap or any spaces on their courses, it goes into one website and you can just like go down the list. So when I got home from camp, I was straight away on clearing and phoning all these universities like, hi, my name's Catherine, I've got these grades, can you help me? So from that I ended up getting into the University of Worcester, which is this lovely place. That's the Worcester Cathedral, that's where I graduated, and the school is like somewhere behind that. That's the only picture I've got from university that wasn't in a nightclub or on a night out. So yeah, I went to the University of Worcester. Now, obviously because it was clearing that I got in, I didn't have any idea where I was going. I didn't have a tour that you'd get, I didn't get to see my accommodation, I didn't get to talk to the course leaders that you would do when you go on a normal tour. It was literally just on the phone and a Google Maps of where the place was. So my aunt drove me up, because at the point my mum didn't really drive distances like that. So my aunt drove me up with my mum, my sister, my brother and all my stuff. And they kept asking me, oh, we're going the right way? And I thought, I don't know, I've never been there. So it was a bit stressful for me that way. So they got me into my accommodation, they moved me in, and then we had to go. And at that point it was traumatic and really upsetting for me, because I'm a twin. So it wasn't just me leaving home, it was me leaving my twin as well. So I ended up meeting my flatmates in just floods of tears as my mum sort of ushered me in and said, can you just look after her? So that's how university started for me. From then I did the PGCE, the Postgraduate Certificate in Education, which is a 3-year course, and on that course it's structured a bit weird. Now that I've done a different course, the structure of PGCE is a bit weird. I'm not sure if it's the same for all PGCEs, so if you've done a PGCE or you're doing a PGCE, feel free to comment below and let me know how yours is laid out. But mine was, you did lectures for like a block of time, and then you did placement, and then you did lectures, and then you did placement, then you did lectures, then you did placement. So in the PGC I was split into what we call PAM Group C, the Pedagogy and Management Group, which was like the main module that we did, and there were 3 groups, A, B and C, and it ended up being like a sort of divide, like C's would only talk with C's and B's would only talk with B's, and if an A wandered over to a different group, it was like, get away. But it was really nice because there was like 40 of us, it was like loads of us, and it was a really wide age range. I sort of assumed that being behind in my year group, so being behind from A-levels, I thought that I'd be the only person there that was like 19. I thought I'd be really sort of sticking out like a sore thumb, but there were people there who had been doing another career for years and changed their mind. There are people who had grandkids, so it was a really wide range of ages, so I didn't really feel like I was alone then. And most of the people that were my age or younger, I didn't really notice. Most of them thought I was their age. I was like, no, I'm like 2 years older than you. But so that was PGCE. It was an experience. I actually have 2 or 3 blogs that I will link in my description, all about PGCE, the difference between PGCE and SKIT, how I got on with it, and what was like to fail at PGCE, because spoiler alert, I did end up failing my PGCE. And if you're on my Instagram, you know I failed my PGCE. But yes, so I'm going to talk to you about PGCE now. So PGCE, like I said, was split up really weirdly. You had lectures and then placements. So my first placement was in quite a rough school, like for Worcester. Worcester's like quite up there, but for Worcester was quite a rough school. The first thing that happened when I came into my school was that all the teachers warned me about one boy in my class, which I absolutely hate. I have to do a video on teacher pet peeves, because I absolutely hate it when other teachers tell you about children, like, oh, watch out for this kid because they do this, or watch out for that because this happened like 2 years ago. I hate when children are judged on their past mistakes, or even a sibling. So they all came in and started to warn me about this boy because he doesn't respect the authority of women, which for me was like wonderful. But that immediately got me thinking about this school, because if they're going to go around and tell new people that, then what are they going to do? Like, that really tells a lot about what they are as teachers and who they are as people. So I started off in my class. I was in year 5. It was a full class of 30, and obviously I had this boy in that doesn't respect women. And so I was really anxious about it, because I thought, okay, I'm not going to go on here. It was actually a great placement. I loved it, especially teaching year 5. I hadn't been sure if I wanted to teach older kids at that point, but I really enjoyed it. I would say that the subject knowledge was a bit because I had to teach French, and that is to date one of my worst lessons I've ever done. I hated teaching French, and if I can avoid it, will never teach French again, or at least I will use some of the skills I've learned to teach it, but it was not great. I ended up having an observation. So I had my observation, and basically the observation, someone else comes in to observe you, so it's your teacher and someone else from university, and then they have a little chat about it, and then they come and pull you out for a chat. So they had their little chat, and I was in the class, and then I came out for my little chat, and they basically said that I'd failed my observation. I can't remember what I failed on, because they mark you on the teaching standards. I can't remember this one, but basically I failed my observation, and it was recommended that I don't teach anymore. So I went back into class, and I wasn't teaching anymore. I stayed out for the whole placement, but I wasn't allowed to teach. So I was only observing, and I was only assisting with small group work. That was it. I wasn't allowed to teach anymore, which was a bit annoying, because I planned some lessons I wanted to teach. I think my teacher taught them instead rather than me teaching them, because I wasn't allowed, and it was all a bit that was my first placement. So at that point I thought it was all over. I thought I was going home. I think I was like packing my bags when I had a meeting in the university, and they were like, oh, do you want to resit your placement? So I was like, yeah. So I resat my placement. Heads up, you do pay for that. They did warn me that you pay for that. So I paid, basically paid just for another year, because student loan finance covers 3 years, but if I was going to be there extra, I would be pushed back a year, so I was paying for an extra year, which was fine. I resat my placement, and I resat that on targeted support. So it basically means that this is what I failed on before. I'd have extra support to make sure I don't fail that again, and obviously to pass the other bits as well. So I was then in another school. I was in a lovely little village school, 1 form-entry, so 1 class for every year, and I was in year 3, I think. I was in year 3. The only issue with this placement was that it was not in Worcester. It was in like a neighbouring town, and at that point I didn't drive. So to get to school, I had to wake up at 5 to get a bus at like 6, half 5, and I'd get to school at 7. So it was me and the cleaner every morning, because I was there so early. It got a bit better in that one of my friends was placed in a nearby school, so she started to drive me, but she couldn't drive me, so it was back to getting the bus. It was just a little bit so on top of that, it was the stress of trying to get to my placement. But I did end up passing that placement. The head teacher knew I was in targeted support. They sent me there because it was a really good school for support. So I actually had to submit my planning every Monday for the whole week for the head teacher to review. I had to make sure that all my I had like extra observations, my teacher gave me extra pointers, I had extra meetings, things like that. So I did end up passing that placement, and I moved on to my second placement. Now at this point, everyone else in my group was on their third placement, and that was a bit awkward for me because I was already had a bit of a hang up about being behind everyone from when I reset my A-levels, and I was resetting this, so I was behind even more. And then because of the way the things set out, so all the lectures, they were doing all lectures for third placement when I wasn't on my third placement, I was on my second placement, and they were doing all lectures for second placement when I was on my first placement, so nothing they were telling me was relevant, but I still had to go. So it was all a bit but yeah, I went to my second placement. So my second placement was back in Worcester, so no more travelling, just a bus to get there every morning, like no more early morning travelling. And I was in year 1 this time. I think I was in year 1, and it was going really well until I had an observation and I failed again. Now this one I can remember exactly what I failed on, because to this day I'm a bit mad about it. But it was a lesson on shape poems, so caligrams, and one lesson, the lesson before my observation, the children had planned out their poems, and in the next lesson the children were writing their poems. So I failed on TS2, which is to promote good progress, because my lesson didn't show enough progress. So from planning to writing there wasn't enough progress. Now for me, I hold my hands up and say, actually, yeah, now that I have finished my training and I've grown, there was nowhere near enough progress in that lesson. I understand that, but I don't believe that was a reason for someone to fail. I think that was a reason to maybe say, okay, you're not so strong on TS2, we're going to target that, and then on our next observation you should have been better, or else you'd have to fail. But it was literally straight up, they didn't progress enough year out. So I just found that really harsh. And the other thing that was really harsh about this placement was, unlike my first failure where I just couldn't teach, I had to leave. So my observer told me that I failed my placement and I have got to leave. And it wasn't a at the end of the day leave, it wasn't a at the end of the week leave, it was right here, right now, while the kids are at break, you need to go. So for me, that's kind of made PGC a bad experience for me, because I felt that was really harsh. I had to go. Like, the woman ended up driving me all the way to my front door, taking me home, because I had a panic attack, because it was literally just like, here, you're done. So at that point I really thought I was going home. I was packing my bags, I was crying in front of my mum, to my dad, that I'd failed PGCE, that I was coming home. And then I had another meeting with the university. I could retake another placement. So they're like, yeah, do you want to retake a placement? Or redo it? Again, I'd have to pay. But I decided not to redo it, because to redo that would put me 2 behind. And at that point, everyone else would have finished third placement, graduated and left. And as well, all my other friends that weren't doing teaching, they would have graduated and left. So it would have been just me on my own in Worcester, living with God knows who. So I decided at that point, I'm going to just leave, because I didn't see the point. It was hard enough to do it with the support that I had, and I thought that if I didn't have the support I'd had, I wasn't going to make it. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to say I'm going to go home. So I decided to go home. Now at this point, I was like traumatized from teaching and everything to do with teaching. So I came home, I didn't have a job for ages, and then I decided to I started working in a supermarket. And I quit for the most superficial reason. I quit because the shoes were ugly. And I try and tell myself, and I told them, that's because the distance to my house was too far. And it was like a 20-minute bus there, which is fine, because I knew the area. But my shift started at 6, so that was a 5 a.m. 20-minute bus. And after that placement where I woke up so early, that was like, nah, I can't do this anymore. But the real reason was that the shoes were hideous. They were like steel-capped black boots. And I couldn't do it. So I quit my job in a supermarket and I started working in a restaurant. I loved working in a restaurant. It was the best job I had in my whole life, being a waitress. I was promoted to supervisor like not long after. It was so good. Like, my organisation came out then when I was organising all the bookings to know who was in and out when, and make sure there's time to clean the table before the next booking came in. It was great. But I ended up losing that job because I was made redundant because the restaurant chain was shrinking down and they closed Darwin. I ended up jumping from restaurant to restaurant, so I worked in 2 other restaurants from then. But the last one that I worked in was a restaurant/bar. So where I was a waitress and I only had to work up till 11 o'clock, they had some staffing issues, so occasionally they would ask me if I would mind helping on the bar, which meant that I was working till 3 a.m. Now, if I had just finished a waitress shift, that means I've been there since about 3 p.m, meant to finish at 11, not finished at 11, stayed on till 3. Which for me, at the time I had some health issues like anemia, so getting enough sleep was really important, and making sure I ate throughout the day was really important, and at times I'd just forget I had to eat and I'd feel faint and it just got really bad. The final straw for me was when I had done a bar shift, so I was there till 3 and I didn't leave until 6 because the supervisor on shift, who is a good friend of mine, wouldn't let me go because I think she thought I was meant to be there till 6, so she wouldn't let me go until I'd finished. But as far as I was concerned, I had finished, and she made me like clean the whole bar area, not alone, but still it wasn't my job to do all that. So that for me was the final straw, where I said, actually, I think I'm going to quit because I'm not really happy there anymore. It wasn't a good environment for like mental health because you were doing such long hours and it was such a demand on the job. So I decided to quit. And I told myself, if I'm going to quit this job, I'm not going to jump to another waitressing job. I am going to get back into teaching. So I decided then, I handed in my resignation. First, I didn't have a job when I handed it in. I just handed it in because I had to get out. And then I started looking for jobs. So I was lucky to find a teaching assistant job in a school, I won't say near me, but where I live, it's all near you by buses. So a school near me, and I loved it. The second that I stepped foot in there and like had like the first couple of days, and just my interview, like for my interview, it was around Christmas time with foundation children. I made a book on PowerPoint. I made a book about Santa. He was trying to go deliver some presents, but he couldn't recognise the house numbers because he lost his map, and for some reason he wrote his map all in riddles, and he just knows that the door number ends in a 5, and can the children help him? It was super cute. And they all get little stars to be elves. It was adorable. But just from the interview, I was like, okay, I need to teach again. And then from going into the actual school and spending time with the children and teaching, I knew I had to go back to teaching because I hadn't missed a single step. Like, the teacher that I was TAing for, she was senior management, so sometimes she'd have to go off to deal with issues or she'd have meetings and things like that. And I was always on hand to do PPA cover, and it wasn't just PPA cover where you sort of leave them a really gentle task so that they can relax. I was teaching in the PPA time, and the second she'd left, it was my classroom. I had like individual rules for Wednesdays because I was the later PPA. I had Wednesday rules. We did extra special things on Wednesday. I had different rewards on Wednesdays. Like, they knew that the second Miss Costick's gone, it's Miss Lewis's turn, like, we're in this. So I loved that. I also I took charge of the nurture group. I did my own planning for that. It was adorable, and if I'm in foundation again, I will like bring that back because I thought it was really good. Just teach the children, some children, emotional control, because some of them were getting upset for like really little things and it wasn't like healthy. So I did that, and yeah, I just told my teacher then that I was applying for teacher training for the following year because I thought, okay, I need to teach now. So I did that. I applied for my SCIT, school-centred initial teacher training, in the July, so last July, because I've just finished it. And what's August now? Yeah. So I applied for that. I had my interview. So the way the SCIT here works is that it's all, it probably is the same way you are. If it is, please let me know. If it isn't, let me know. But it's all different schools in the area, and they've come together to train teachers. So I would do placement in any one of these schools, and then I'd move to any one of these schools and then I'd come back. So I had my interview at one of their schools, which is a school I actually did my work experience in when I was in secondary school, across the road from my secondary school. So I'd nip over to some work experience. I am, fast saying, completely Yes, my interview. My interview went really well. I actually cannot remember now what my interview lesson was. Can't remember it at all. I've done so many lessons at this point, I've got no clue. But apparently it went well because I got a place. Actual interview, I remember like specifically that she asked like what kind of person I am. I was like, yeah, I'm insane if I'm honest. I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of mad. But yeah, because my personality, I'm quite immature for my age. So I'm 26 now, and I can be quite immature because I just, life's too short to be old and crinkly. Like, if you want to go dance in the rain, go dance in the rain. So I did say that, like, I'm quite, I don't say mature in my interview, but I think I did say mature in my interview. And I said, if the kids want to play with me, I'll play with them. Like, if the kids want to play dolls, I'll play dolls. They want to play with the kitchen area, I'll play the kitchen area. They want to jump in puddles, I'll be there with them. Probably putting welly boots on them first, but I'll be jumping in the puddles because it's fun to do it. So I ended up getting my skit with that. Now, the skit was so different from the PGCE in that it's just completely set up like a whole different way. So like on PGCE, where it was lectures, then placement, then lectures, then placement, we did lectures and placement together on the skit. So on the skit, I was in school for 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, I would have lectures. And they were whole day, 8 till 3, where we learned about all sorts of stuff, subject knowledge, behaviour management, SEN, all kinds of stuff. And then that went up throughout the year. So as my teaching commitments grew, my time in lectures went down. So I went from having 2 days in lectures to 1 day in lecture to just a full 5 days in school. I had 2 placements, so rather than PCE were 3, I had 2. I had a homeschool placement, which is the school that I spent most of the time in. I had 6 weeks in a cross-phase placement, so depending on what phase I was on the early years track. So I went up to a I did a placement in a primary school, which to be fair was year 1. So I would have been there on early years track anyway, but it was still a primary placement, so it counted. And then I also had 10 days in a special school, which for me was really good because I was always a bit nervous about how to meet the needs of SEN children or children with SEN. Just because I felt at that point that I wasn't going to be able to do it. Like, I wasn't going to be confident in how to address those needs. But actually during my PGCE, I had to get, at the end of my undergraduate, my education studies degree, which I've just realised I completely forgot to talk about. It was great. As part of that degree was all policy, so I didn't have any placements. There was one work experience module, but you didn't really get a lot out of it, and I didn't get a place on it because it was quite popular because everybody wanted to be a teacher. So to get from my undergraduate to my PGCE, I had to do 10 days in a school. So my friend who had done placement, she got me a place at her school, which was a SEN school for children with physical disabilities. So I got 10 days experience with that, and it was so rewarding because you tend to think of children with SEN as being less capable, but seeing these children who had all different kinds of disabilities just getting on, and they were doing the exact same work that you would find in a mainstream school, only difference being that on occasion they need to stretch out their legs because they're not getting exercise that they should, exercise they should be doing. But so yeah, it was really helpful. So as was my SEN placement, again I was really nervous about doing it because it was a fully SEN school where it wasn't just physical disability, it was mental disabilities. I was a little bit apprehensive, but having the 10 days there was helpful for me, and I will be honest, I was more comfortable knowing it was just 10 days. It was just 10 days and I'd be out. So it is difficult, and there is actually an SEN child in my class now, which again I'm grateful to know, and I'm grateful to know how to handle that. So it was really good. I have completely lost track of what I was saying because I rambled, and I do ramble a lot, and I've done it and I've lost track. My notes are over here, give me 2 seconds. Just get placements 10 days. Okay, so so I had my home school, my cross-phase school, and that placement. So in my home school, I started in September. So unlike PGCE where you have lectures from September to like October, September 4th I was in school for inset days. Now the way my school did it is because the foundation, they staggered starts, so the youngest children started first and then the older children started, and they also carried on some home visits in September. So I was lucky that I got to go on home visits, because that's not really an experience you get to do on training, because you just start teaching or they just start school. But I got to go on home visits and find out what that was all about. I also got to be there for their curriculum afternoons. That's when the parents come in with the kids to have a look at what like example lessons. So that ended up being a huge opportunity for me and sort of set the scene for my whole placement, because one teacher was off, or she was ill or something, and she wasn't going to be there for curriculum afternoons. So they needed someone to cover and teach from the lessons, and I straight away was like, yeah, I'll do that. Because obviously I'd had the training and the experience for PGCE, I've already taught, so it wasn't anything new for me. I just jumped straight in. So I was teaching in front of parents and children on like the first 2 weeks of my placement. I did that for the whole week until all 3 classes visited, and then I pretty much got stuck in with the skit. Or at least with this skit, you can decide how much you want to get invested, because you're there from the beginning. It's up to you how much you want to put in. If you want to start teaching straight away, you can. If you're a bit apprehensive, you want to just observe for a while, you can. Like I said, I had the experience, so I just jumped in. So I was teaching in my class once a week, 1 day a week. I think I started off doing the afternoon, the before home story, and then I started teaching 1 day, like 1 lesson a week, and then I went up to 1 day a week. But that was quite staggered, because I was also the Tuesday cover for one of the other foundation classes, because that teacher was part-time because he had a new daughter, so he spent time with his daughter at that time, and on those days I would cover in his class. So I was already pretty much, I had loads of responsibility quite from the start, because I was just teaching all the time. Eventually I cut down on my cover in that class until just to doing none, because it was taking away from my time with my actual class, and my skit provider decided to tell them I can't cover anymore because, well, I wasn't allowed. Also cover another year group, so I covered in year 1 for a day, and that was actually the class that I did my induction with when I came to look at the school, so they all knew me. It was really nice to see them again, actually. It was really fun. And then I didn't cover year 2, but I did have I did a club in year 2, so yeah, those responsibilities. That went up to, when I went up to doing 5 days a week, that was just pure teaching from the start. And of course there were times when my teacher was out covering that other class that I couldn't cover, or she was out doing meetings, or she was out doing this, that and the other. So most of the time I was teaching, it was just me in the classroom, which I loved, because like I said, I had the experience, so having her there, I wasn't feeling nervous about her watching me, because I knew what I was doing. But when she wasn't there, it felt like it was my class, like I was in control, they were listening to me, there wasn't another teacher sort of undermining me, or if they asked a question, they weren't then going to ask her because it was just me they could ask, or they weren't looking for her for instructions because it was just me. So that was really good. Oh yeah, I've got my picture. It's my picture. I'm going to just hold it back here because obviously this is my class and that's their faces, but this is my lovely class that I had for my NQT year. So my crossfade placement was quite different, because it was a school in a more deprived area. My home school was in quite a affluent area, and then my crossfade was in a more deprived area. So the children there had more behaviour difficulties because there's more going on at home. I was only there for 6 weeks, but I did end up really improving my behaviour management, because in my home school the kids were quite, well, good, because they were, but in my crossfade school there were more issues. So there were more children being defiant, there were more things being thrown, there was more going on. So I got to improve my behaviour management then, just because I had to think of other ways to get through to children, I guess. There was one boy who was already on a behaviour plan, and for me the main issue that I felt with our school was their behaviour policy, because it was a policy that only takes. They had 3 counters at the beginning of the day. Any bad choice they made, they lost one, but they could never get them back. They only lost them, which for me was, it wasn't great, because the kids had no chance of making it up to anyone. There was no way to get the counters back. So when I noticed that, I did give this one boy on the behaviour plan, I gave him opportunities to get his counters back. So if he was misbehaving, if I saw him behave again, I would say, actually, I've changed my mind, I'm going to give you this counter back, because yes, you made a bad choice, but really quickly start making a good choice again. Completely against the policy, but it's what he needed, so that's what I did. So that was my cross phase. I then went back to my home school, which at that point I'd been away for 6 weeks, and it's incredible the progress children can make in 6 weeks. I'd left children who could barely write and came back to children who were writing full sentences, who could write their name, who were doing like full sums in maths. It was a huge adjustment to get back into it, so I did sit back and observe for the first week and a half, and then I got back into teaching, because at that point I was teaching 60 to 80%, so I was doing quite a bit. Then it went up to 100%, of course. Actually, it went up to 80% because we all followed an NQT timetable to get us ready for this year. So that was fun. I ended up having quite a lot of time out of my class as well, because other classes were borrowing me for trips and things like that, which I loved. I mean, take me out for a trip anytime. But so yes, I then finished my skit in June just gone. Finished on the 24th. It was a very sad day for me because the teachers knew I was going, but the parents and the children did not. So they weren't actually aware I was going until I think I started dropping hints to them about like a week or two before, because it sort of hit me. I'm like, oh, they didn't know I'm going. Because I was counting down to it. As much as I loved my placement, I loved teaching, I was so tired because it was still a bus for me to get every morning. It was still travelling every day, and I was just getting tired. So for me, I was counting down the days. I was like, guys, I go in 2 weeks to all the teachers around. And I was there with a fellow trainee, so we were counting down the days together. We were just like 2 weeks to go. But the children had no idea, and I hadn't even considered that they didn't know until it was like 2 weeks to go. And I was like, oh God, no one's told them. So at that point, I would just sort of drop it in. And I'd say, oh guys, I want to see some really good behaviour before I go. And then they started asking, oh, where are you going? And I was like, oh, I don't work here, guys. I don't work in this school. I'm going to go work in another school. So they sort of caught on to it then. It was really sad to say goodbye to them. I tend to go quite big. I love giving gifts, so I gave them all a present. They all got a giant balloon, some healthy popcorn, because they're a healthy school, and a named keyring to put on their book bags that I really hope they've also got. I gave all the teachers I worked with, I gave them all something, because I did really love being part of their team. They really made me feel welcome, like from the start. Like obviously I was there on inset day and I didn't know anyone other than my teacher, so I kind of stood in the background and like, oh, come over, come talk to us. And I was like, oh, well, I'm a bit shy. And like, yeah, you can't be shy here. And they were right, I cannot be shy there. But I gave them all a gift. The parents were lovely. They didn't know I was going, so when they found out I was going, they got me something. Yeah, it was sad. So that brings me to now, to my NQT year. I will be honest, I'm terrified. The whole summer, if you've been on my Instagram, I have been working the whole summer, just because it's the way that I relax. To make resources is how I relax, and I've been a bit nervous about just certain things, and when I think I have an issue, I will make something to combat that issue. So like I thought, oh, do you know what, we haven't got this in the classroom, so I made one, which is how I relaxed. So I've been doing that all summer. I have been in my classroom when it's open. It opens again tomorrow, so I will be there tomorrow finishing things up. But yeah, I'm kind of nervous just because obviously I've been working up to this for quite a while, and now it's like, oh, it's here. I'd thought so much about the training and what I'm going to do when I'm a teacher. I hadn't thought about being a teacher. Like even now, it doesn't feel like I'm a teacher. It feels like I'm still training until I actually get into that class next week, and it's just me and my TA going it alone. So yeah, kind of nervous, kind of feeling it a bit now. Keep telling my mum I don't want to do it, and if I'm honest, I don't. I'm kind of terrified. But we'll see how it goes, and I of course will be taking you guys with me, which brings me to my next part, my upcoming videos. So firstly, before I say this, so sorry that there's been such a massive gap in between my first video and this one. My plan was to record my classroom setup and my classroom tour after my last video, but I hadn't realised that my school was closed an extra week, so it's been closed for 3 weeks now instead of 2. So, and of course today's bank holiday that I'm recording this on, so it's open today. So yeah, I had planned things out, but I had forgotten to show the dates properly, and that's why there's been a massive gap, because I didn't want to record about my classroom without being in my classroom. I didn't want to just do like a random video, and then because my plans sort of got interrupted, I didn't know what to do. I was kind of stuck, hence why I did a poll on Instagram to ask. So now I can say for sure that the next video that will be up here is my classroom setup / tour. Now it's going to be a slash because my classroom is actually pretty much done, and I was recording all my setups on Instagram because I hadn't made the decision to come to YouTube yet. So all my setups are actually on Instagram, so if you want to go and have a look at those, again, I keep saying it will be linked below. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, my classroom setup and tour. The next video I want to show you guys is first week of school activities, because I have planned my activities, I had them planned for months, I know exactly what I'm doing. I've just been making little tweaks to my PowerPoint, but other than that I can show you. So I will be showing you my first week of school activities, what I'm going to do on first week of school, and then the next video I will be doing is the actual first week of school, because I want to take you guys along with me and show you how I get on my first week of NQT, whether or not I've crumbled and died or whether I've actually made it through. So that's the first thing I'm going to show you. So that's the next 3 videos that's going to be going up. Heads up about first week of school, it's going to be an awkward video because it's training Monday, Tuesday, so I might bring you in for that. I probably will bring you in for that, but it won't be, you know, as go, because I've got no idea what we're doing. Then school starts Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so I will probably record during break and lunch times because I haven't told my school about my YouTube channel or my Instagram or my blog. So unless it really comes up like desperately, like they either find it or they catch me recording, I'm not going to tell them. But because of that, I can't have the children in the videos. I'm not without parental consent, so until school knows, I won't let parents know. Once school knows, parents will know that I have consent, then I can record them. But I probably will record activities, just no faces. There'll just be a general rule of if the camera's out, look down. But on top of that, on Friday next week I am going to Rome for a family wedding. So Friday's video will be choppy as hell because it'll literally be break time, lunchtime, I'm in Rome, because I'm literally like going after school. So that'll be a bit choppy, but we'll see how it goes. I may take you to Rome with me, I may let you see what that's all about, but we'll see. Most likely if I do a first week of school reflection video, so that after the whole first week of school, it will be in Rome because that's where I'll be, so you'll probably see that anyway. Then after Rome, I'm not coming back until Monday, so I start school again on the Tuesday, so I'm not going to have a full week of school till the 3rd weekend, which for me is stressful, but that's just how things worked out. So yes, that's what's to come. I'm going to stop rambling now because I've been going on 42 minutes. I'm impressed that I've done that, to be honest, because yeah, I'm a rambler, guys, I'm sorry. I promise I will learn how to either stop rambling or at least make it a purposeful ramble. Hopefully it's been purposeful now, but I will find a way to condense it into the actual essential information. But I am going to sign off this video now because it's so hot. I don't know what kind of a heat wave England's going through right now, but I am dying, and I turned off the fan to record this and I really need to turn it back on because honestly it's too much for me. Thank you for watching my video, and thank you for sticking by me through the massive gap between my videos. Like I said, if you want to see some more my classroom setup, want to see first week of school, what I'm doing, or you just want to see Rome, click that like and that bell and subscribe. I think I've done it in the wrong order. What's the typical YouTube order? Like, subscribe and click that bell. But yeah, please just do whatever you like. If you want to follow me, follow me. If you don't, don't. If you'd like to follow my Instagram, I do post a lot more on my Instagram, more of my tips, more about my resources, more about what I'm doing on Instagram, just because it's an easier, what's the word I want to use? Interface. It's just easier to post pictures than to do whole videos. So go ahead and follow me there. It will be, as I've said, the whole video in the description box, and my blogs will also be in the description box. Yeah. So if you want to know what I thought about PGCE in more depth, or you want to know like in more depth what it was like to fail, because I touched on it here, but I did go more in depth there. go and watch that. And if you are starting a PGC or a skit or any kind of training, let me know below, and if I can give you some tips, please do. If you're an NQT, an RQT, or just a T, please give me some tips below so that I don't literally die next week. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.